Phew. All right. Now we're being recorded. A few housekeeping things before I get started. I just wanted to remind everyone about our website. You'll see the URL is pasted there on the top of the screen. Just this is a good remember to bookmark that, keep coming back to it. We have links out to our blog, to our newsletter archive, where you can see all of our recent newsletters, any upcoming events and actions, and links out to our YouTube channel. So please bookmark that. That seemed to be a little bit of, I know that's, we presented that again last last month, but it seemed to be a surprise. So I want to make sure everybody knows about it. And here's just another screenshot of our webpage and some of the things that you can, resources you can look at. That blog screenshot of our blog post, that's an older screenshot. That our blogs are more up to date than that. And we try to keep them up to date with things that you may be interested in and may help you. And then once again, another piece of housekeeping, remember that we're no longer on Twitter, that we are on Threads. The URL for our Threads account is down at the bottom. Donna Berry would very much appreciate you jumping on Threads and keeping up with her. And she is working hard to keep that account up to date. So follow her and re-thread her. I don't want to say tweets. I'm so trained to say that though. Her threads. So that would be appreciated. So if you're into social media, that's where we're going to live, with the exception of the YouTube channel. And then the last piece of housekeeping, we've been talking about our book club. We are meeting in person on the 21st of January to discuss The Persuaders. I think we have about 12 people signed up now to read the book and meet in person. We're going to be meeting in the Twin Brook area of Rockville. So that's a fairly central part of the county. And we're really looking forward to having our first in-person meetup. And yeah, so I think we could squeeze in a few more folks. Please consider that and join us. All you need to do is email us at indivisiblemontgomery@gmail.com to let us know, that you're in on that. That would be great. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what the steering committee has been discussing about what activities we should be focused on right now. As you know, we are just coming off our work on working on the New York 3 special election, and big shout out to everybody who postcarded with us. That we are, that election is coming up February 13th. So we are sort of shifting our focus now. Although in your recent newsletters, those newsletters that come out to you every Friday, we've been listing just a myriad of opportunities that you can still take to support that election in the New York 3rd congressional district, George Santos's former district. We have a super Democrat running, Tom Suozzi. There are phone banks all out the wazoo. There is still writing opportunities to do. Your time could be very well spent on any of those activities that we've listed in the newsletter. But Indivisible Montgomery itself, we are not going to be staging phone banks or any more specific actions since we finished our postcarding work that we did stand up. But please keep New York 3 in your thoughts and what can you do. Refer to our newsletter again for those actions. So what we've been thinking about is where else can we be impactful in terms of voter registration, because we are before the primaries. This is the key time to register folks, right? and get them in the system so that they can be good voters in either their primary and probably more important in some cases, in their general election. So we have, as you know, brought to you the opportunities represented by Field Team 6 in terms of texting to voters. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that in a minute. But Field Team 6 also has a very robust postcard program to likely Democratic voters who are not yet registered. They have 23 active campaigns. Um, and I think that this would be very worth our while looking at, and more on that in just a minute. I've listed some other postcarding or writing opportunities. Some are going on right now, but have a quick deadline. For example, that Swing Blue Alliance. The third one, the Civic Center, is a longer deadline. We've been talking to you in the newsletters about that project, writing to parents with teenagers who are not registered in Arizona. That's a very nice project as well. Vote Forward, which is not is a nonpartisan, of course, as you know, have not announced their campaigns yet to target folks to register to vote. But we'll be watching to see, and we'll be interested to see if they stand something up for young voters in mid-February. What I'd like to talk about quickly this morning is a campaign for the New York 4th district. So this is the neighbor district to the New York George Santos district. Anthony DiPizzuto is currently the Republican congressman from that district. That is a Biden won district by 15 points. And Desposito is one of the Indivisible unrepresentative 18. Indivisible wants to target Desposito to defeat him in 2024 and replace him with a Democrat. He is a reliable MAGA voter, but he's slick, and he's in a mixed district, so he's careful about what he does. And I'm afraid to say, I think he's looking kind of rosy to people because he was one of the folks who stood up, the New York Republicans who worked on drumming out Santos. But Desposito needs to go. So there are two good scripts to choose from with Field Team 6. One on reproductive freedom, one on protecting Social Security and Medicare. They've got 2,400 addresses left. This does require a stick-on label from Field Team 6 for a link out, a QR code to their registration link, or you buy postcards directly from them. And I propose that we adopt this campaign. So I'm just laying this out for you to think about it. We'll talk about this more. We're looking for help. If you're excited about this, as I am, please email us at indivisiblemontgomery@gmail.com. I think this is be very, very worth our while. And we've got a long deadline on this because the registration deadline in New York is June 15th. Again, we want to talk about texting to likely Democratic voters. This is work that we introduced to you a couple of months, in December, right? With Deb Verla, who came to talk to us. A couple of us have been doing this work. It's easy, it's fun, it can be done anytime. We just finished texting to the New York 3 campaign. Again, these are to unregistered folks, but all the demographic data that Field Team 6 has gathered on them makes Field Team 6 believe that if they registered, they would vote as Democrats. So the New York 3 texting campaign is now finished. There was a 6.6 click-through rate for that campaign, so they're considering that a big success. So I'd like to introduce Steve Pressman to speak now, because Steve is going to talk to you a little bit more about his experience on texting with Field Team 6. And I will take down my slides. Thank you.
Thanks, Dee. As Dee said, if you were at our meeting in December, on December 2nd, Deb Verla from Field Team 6 did a demonstration, really, of how to use their texting program. And it was, I thought, very impressive and looked effective and easy to use. So I tried it, as I know a few others did, including Dee. I wanted to tell you about it because I think it's a great thing to be doing now when a lot of us aren't doing that much. Things aren't really haven't heated up yet. And this is the time we can use to register voters. And that's the primary goal of Field Team 6. In fact, their slogan for the organization is "Registered Dems Save the World." So this is a chance, a way to register voters in key states and districts, swing states around the country, which is nice for those of us here in Maryland, to be able to register voters in other states. There aren't many ways to help do that. So Dee or others who have done some of this, please jump in. I'll talk a little bit about the Field Team 6 texting program. I'm not going to do a full demonstration. It's not going to be that detailed. But I want to give you a heads up that we are going to be sending out some more information about how to do this, and follow that up with we hope, with a Zoom session where we can walk you through it, demo it, answer your questions, whatever you want to talk about. So look for that in the emails from IM. And I should say also that Field Team 6 every Thursday at 6 o'clock does a Zoom training and demonstration. You can sign up online at Mobilize, if you've used Mobilize. I put the link in the chat to sign up for their training. Okay. Field Team 6 is based in California. They, as Dee said, they run a number of activities. We're going to talk about the texting activity. They call it BYOP, or Bring Your Own Phone, even though the program now doesn't, it's evolved over time and they don't really use your phone. You don't really use your phone at all. You just use your computer. I have found it to be a very easy and efficient way to send short, punchy, good messages to likely Democrats in key states or districts. And the messages are basic, they're very simple. They are either about abortion rights or democracy, or depending on the district, the economy. And they allow us to put a key message in front of voters without much effort, without any cost, as I'll explain. And it's a great way to efficiently put keywords and links. This provides a link to voter registration. So if you're in Arizona, you get a text, a 2-sentence text. Republicans are trying to take away reproductive rights. We can fight back by registering to vote. Here's the link to register. So I think it's really a smart program. You can choose from a long list of states or districts that you are interested in. For example, yesterday I decided, I had been texting Georgia since I lived there for a long time, but I decided to text Arizona, a key congressional district in Arizona, with a message about reproductive rights, because as you may know, in Arizona, the voters there are trying to get enough signatures on a petition to put abortion rights on the ballot in November. And that's important because if enough interest is raised and abortion gets on the ballot, it'll probably bring out more voters in November who are supportive of abortion rights. And that's, of course, good for Democrats. So Arizona seems like a good target to text people to register. Um, there are there are a number of reasons why I think the Field Team Tech 6 program is a good one to use right now. First, at this point in the cycle, there aren't many texting programs operating, and that will remain true for many months. And that's because they are expensive to mount for campaigns to mount and to run. So they aren't spending that kind of money now. Many texting options will appear as we get close to November, especially as Get Out the Vote gets close, because texting is a great way to work on Get Out the Vote. But for now, there aren't many ways, and there aren't to reach voters directly by texting. This is one that you can do across the country. And its second advantage of it is that it's free. It's free to Field Team 6 for a variety of reasons that I won't get into. Or it's essentially free. They do have to buy the voter list, but and it's free to you, and it's free to us. So you don't have to buy stamps or incur any costs. Um, uh, it's fast and it's free. And it enables you to, as I said, choose from a long list of a long menu of states, districts, and messages. And when you text, you send the message as I described, which does not include a question. So unlike most texting programs I've used, you're not asking the voter to engage in a conversation. You don't ask a question to get a conversation started. You're providing just a couple of bits of key information. As a result, you, the texter, don't get many responses that you have to deal with. You don't get you get very few responses at all, and almost no hostile responses. So that makes it faster and easier. It generally takes about 45 minutes to send 100 texts. You can do it while you're watching TV, listening to a podcast or whatever, and you can do it whenever during the day that it's convenient for you, as long as it's between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. in the district you're texting. So for a lot of reasons, it's a useful, easy, and efficient way to get important information to voters and to register voters. There are a couple of steps you need to do to get started. One is you need an action ID. Many of you, if not most of you, already have one from previous phone banking, texting, or other work. But if you don't, it's very easy to sign up to get one. Then you need a texting app on your computer. If you have a Mac, you can use the Messages app. If you use a PC like me, they recommend strongly that you use Google Voice. Google Voice, which is what I have. It is free, it's simple, it's easy to use, and it allows you to text or make phone calls anonymously. Google Voice assigns you, or you get to pick a random phone number from pretty much anywhere in the country. And then that number is what appears to the person receiving the text. So it doesn't use your name or your actual phone number. You use the Chrome browser. So if you normally use Firefox or other browser, you just open Chrome, install the Field Team 6 extension, which is very simple. It's a couple of clicks, and you're set. There are, I do have a couple of minor quibbles with the Field Team 6 program. Google Voice, not Field Team 6, but Google Voice limits you to about 100 texts per day. Google Voice does not like people using it for mass mailers or text calls or texting, so they limit you to 100 a day. So unlike other texting programs, which will be available as we get closer to the election, you can't send, 1,000 texts in a day. It's also a little slower than the paid texting programs. It requires, when you're sending a text, an individual text, it's a 2-click operation instead of just 1 click for each text. And between the 2 clicks, you have to wait a couple of seconds. So it's a little slower than other texting programs. But again, as I said, you can finish 100 texts in about 40 minutes. So in general, what I would say is for those of you who, for whatever reason, don't want to or can't go out knocking on doors to talk face-to-face to voters, or don't want to talk to people on the phone, this is a great way to directly contact voters, register voters, and put critical messages in front of them. And one thing I like about texting is that, people, like if you knock on a door and people see who you are and they close the door in your face, you never convey any message. With the text, they see it. They may not want to have seen it, but they see it and they can't unsee it. So it's a good way to put a sort of a bullet point of information in front of people. As I said, we will be putting out more information about this soon. Look for that in the emails from Indivisible Montgomery. If it sounds like something that you might want to try, and I strongly encourage you to at least give it a try, then you can contact me if you have any questions at stevepressman1, stevepressman1@gmail.com. Or the link will be in the emails from IM. And then we're going to do a Zoom training session sometime in the next month or so. So the other option you have is to attend a mobilized training session. The link again is in the chat. I'll stop there. Any questions for me? Anyone? Dee or anyone else want to add anything?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks, Steve. That was a really good, thorough review of Field Team 6 texting for registering likely Dems. Please, folks, just take yourself off mute and shout out your question. And if you have a question on anything else that we've shared so far, feel free to ask that as well. I do have one further thing I could talk about Maryland District 6. But I'll hold off and let's see if we have any questions.
I see a question. What time is the Field Team 6 Thursday training? It's at 6 p.m. Eastern. 6 p.m. Eastern. I see Mike Fandy with an endorsement of it. He says, I do the BYOP texting each evening while I watch TV. It's pretty straightforward after I went through the training. Yep.
That's great, Mike. I do mine with a glass of wine.
I listen to podcasts.
Hey, Steve, I have a question.
Yep.
I'm used to sending out thousands of messages. 100 is really. Is there any chance that eventually we'll be using software that allows more to go per day?
I can't speak for Field Team 6. I'm sure that there will be many more. There are a few other texting opportunities if you look on Mobilize now, but not many. And
Okay.
but there will be many more as we get closer to the election. And I agree. It's, if once I sit down to text, I like to be able to send 400 or 500 in 45 minutes.
Right. Okay, thanks.
I could add a little bit additional to that. Field Team 6 does have an option called Text Arcade. And the thing is, though, where they have a dialer for texting. The thing is that they do require a financial, they're a nonprofit with, a pretty like very few paid staff, and they're sort of a shoestring operation. But they do have this text arcade where for $25 you can text to 1,400 voters, and they do use an auto dialer for that. I haven't actually seen that in action. I was just watching a video about it. So, but what I do want to just say super quick about something about registering voters vis-a-vis our own Maryland District 6. That is a concern. We know we know our district. We have two Republican uh, absolute disasters already filing to run for David Trone's seat. I'll be honest with you, I'm less up to date on the Democratic filers, but it's too early anyway, I think, we are concerned about that. I'm going to reach out to Field Team 6 and just see if part of their database could be carved out for Maryland 6. They have a partnership operation where organizations can come to them and say, look, I have this race in my district. What can we do? I don't know. I'll be anxious to find out and see if there's anything we can do about District 6, technically, in terms of getting in a database from Field Team 6. I'll let you know. And also, of course, we'll need to find out what that would cost us. But it would be worth it to me to do that right now, you know. That again, those unregistered voters that with the demographic data file that Field Team 6 marries to the unregistered voters, they predict they will be registering as Democrats. I'm not interested in us spending our time registering, you know, Republicans, obviously, for obvious reasons. I see our speakers are here, but I do want to give you a chance. Is there any last questions before we start the next part of the meeting? Seeing anything in the chat? Nina?
I do not see anything in the chat.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and turn this over to Fern Hunt.
Hi, everyone. And once again, thank you all for taking time out of your life to attend this meeting on Saturday morning. So why are we here when we could just as well be living our normal lives? For example, I'm so busy most times when I jump into my car to go on an errand, the last thing on my mind is the catalytic converter or the tire pressure for that matter. That is until the check engine goes on. Check engine light goes on. And that is where we are now with respect to our government. The check engine light has gone on. Just like our car, we have to look at what's happened and make the changes that will fix the problem. It turns out that a lot of what government does to affect our lives happens at the state level. That includes policies on schools, healthcare, including reproductive health, housing, and safety. Our speaker today is Melissa Walker, the head of the state's project. This project has played an enormous role in raising awareness about state government, its importance, and it has been pivotal in bringing political change to states like Michigan by changing the makeup of state legislatures. Melissa is a co-founder of Giving Circles, an innovative way of providing grassroots funding for state legislative campaigns. And we here at Indivisible Montgomery have decided to adopt this methodology. In a former life, Melissa was a writer. She is the author of 10 books for children and young adults, and her work has also appeared in the New York Times and Teen Vogue. She has a remarkable and hopeful story to tell. So without further ado, I turn the mic over to Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please mute yourselves. And if there are any questions, put them in the chat. And we'll try to get to them during the QA session following the presentation.
Thank you, Fern, and thank you everyone for being here. I have to start with a caveat, which is that I worked to get myself into a co-working space, but was locked out of it today. So I'm in a coffee shop in Manhattan, and you may hear some background noise, but I see everyone responding to that, so it sounds like you can hear me. So that's a good sign. As long as you can hear me, we're good. And my colleague Tia Howard is here to jump in case the Wi-Fi goes down or something else happens. So we're covered, but I appreciate you all being here, and it sounds like everyone can hear me. So thank you, Fern, for that wonderful introduction. I love your metaphor of the car. The check engine light is on. In fact, it's been on for a little while, and I think we're sputtering towards the side of the road. As Fern said, I started out in children's book writing, but in December of 2016, so just a month after Trump was elected, I attended a holiday party where I heard a New York State Senator, Daniel Squadron, speak. And the things that I heard that day turned my world around, because I started to understand that everything I was worried about and everything that I cared about domestically in this country was being decided in state capitals and not in Washington, D.C. From education funding to environmental policy to healthcare to civil rights to choice, and of course to the cores of our democracy, voting rights and gerrymandering, the drawing of the district lines that decide who goes to Congress, all in the hands of state legislative majorities. I began to connect the dots on some things that hadn't made sense to me, like the bathroom bill, which originally passed in my home state of North Carolina and then passed in 20 some other states. I started to recognize, oh, that was people in Raleigh who did that. And things like the Stand Your Ground gun law in Tallahassee that let Trayvon Martin's murderer go free and then passed in 25 other states. I recognized that was state lawmakers in Florida, and I don't know a single one of their names. Things like the Flint, Michigan water crisis, I started to realize, okay, that's a Lansing problem, not a Washington, D.C. problem. And all of those things happened under an Obama administration. And we are seeing even now things that are happening under a Biden administration. Attacks on trans kids, book bans, banning of abortion, of course, in state after state after state. Those are state legislatures doing that. There are 50 mini Congresses in this country, and they are where the rubber hits the road in our daily lives, and they also happen to have a huge influence over federal power. So when I started to connect the dots on this, I realized that from 2010 to 2016, Democrats lost nearly 1,000 state legislative seats, flipped from blue to red as we stared at Washington, D.C. and felt good about the direction our country was headed in. But in those states where the right wing took control of state houses and state senates, they made people's lives bad. They defunded education. They put in right to work laws. They gutted environmental protections. But people didn't say, oh, that must be my state senator or my state house rep. Let me go talk to them. Because most people don't know who goes to their state capital for them. I will admit that at that party in December of 2016, someone did ask me if I knew who my state senator was, and I had no idea. I Googled it in the cab home, and I had never heard his name. I had no eyes on Albany. I didn't know who was going to my state capital for me. And when I started to talk to friends and family and neighbors, I realized that none of us really did. And we thought of ourselves as pretty well-informed people who had volunteered for the presidential campaign and gotten involved in federal races, but we hadn't paid attention to the foundations of democracy. So this is where the right wing built their power. And there is hope, because state legislatures are meant to be laboratories for democracy. They are meant to be healthcare going from Hawaii to Massachusetts to becoming the Affordable Care Act, or marriage equality going from state to federal. But too many majorities now have made them laboratories for abortion bans and limiting of voting rights and the like. So the very hopeful thing that I heard that night in December of 2016 was this: it is often cheaper to change the balance of power in an entire state chamber than it is to win a single competitive congressional seat. Congressional races cost millions and millions of dollars. State legislative races do not. They are still small, they are still local. And what I heard that night was that this room that we were in, this room of 70 people in Brooklyn, if they focused their time, attention, and resources, could actually shift power in a state capital. So I set about to do that with a few other children's book authors in Brooklyn. And we called up then Senator Squadron a couple months later and said, we've raised some money. What should we do with it? We've got pledges. We're good to go. What state should we target? What are we doing? And he said, what? I've been giving that speech for 10 years. No one's ever done anything. And we said, well, we're ready to go. We've got some real money here. We can do this. And he said, okay, well, hold on. And a few other things happened. But later that summer, he resigned from the New York State Senate to found the States Project. And that year, 2017, we went with the States Project into Virginia. We had raised about $100,000, and we put that into 10 races in Virginia to finish off their campaigns, fill those final gaps. 9 of those folks won their seats. And the balance of power got so close in Virginia, just 1 seat away from shifting power away from the right wing, that the next year Virginia expanded Medicaid and 400,000 people got healthcare who hadn't had it before. My giving circle felt extremely connected to that policy outcome, and we wanted to see more change. So I went back and had lunch with Daniel Squadron and said, I want to meet all the other people who did giving circles and started this thing. And he said, no one else did it. And I said, oh no, this is the most powerful I've ever felt. This is the most impactful thing that I've ever done. And he said, okay, do you want to work here? And I said, oh, I don't know. But slowly and surely, I started a Giving Circles program at the States Project because I truly believe that it is the most impactful place that a group of organized people can put their resources. I believed it in 2017 and 2018, in 2019 and 2020. And I believed it in 2022 when we had 300 Giving Circles across the country who helped us flip the State House in Pennsylvania by 63 votes, helped us flip both chambers in Michigan by fewer than 400 votes each, helped us flip the State Senate in Minnesota by 191 votes, and helped us keep it very close in Arizona, just 1 seat away from shifting power in each chamber. This can be done. It is steady on the ground work that is a fraction of the cost of federal races, is a place where most people are not looking, except for the right wing, where the coffers are always full and where they've been building power in state legislatures for decades. So we work with the States Project as a Giving Circle, and so do you with your Giving Circle. And the States Project does a 99 state chamber analysis every year to figure out where power shifts are possible. For 2024, we've identified 7 states that we need to either defend or that we are working to shift power in. They're listed on our website, and I'll put the link, or Tia, can you put the link in the chat? That would be great, so that you can see which states we're looking at. But in all those states, the States Project sees a path to shifting power or defending it, what we need to do to have majorities that are focused on improving lives. And I will tell you that watching Michigan and Minnesota, especially after this last session, pass incredible policies. They both codified the right to abortion in the state. They both expanded free breakfast and lunch for all school children in their states. Michigan ended the right to work laws so unions can be strong again in that state, once such a proud union state. They've done incredible things. And that policy change is possible because of state legislative wins that, again, were accomplished by under 500 votes in all of those states, Michigan, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania, where it was 63 vote margin. So We are targeting the specific districts that we need to shift or defend power. We are only in those tipping point districts, and we are helping those folks run fully funded and research-based campaigns. That's what the States Project does when we enter a state. We also have a team that works on policy after the election, because of course our end goal is not to win the election, but actually to help these new majorities pass laws that improve people's lives. That is how we rebuild from the ground up, not the top down. In 2024, there is going to be wild, emotional, political giving. Dollars are going to fly here, there, and everywhere as people get anxious and nervous and afraid and angry or even inspired. And that is going to happen, but it's not incredibly strategic. So what I say to every giving circle that starts, and you all have one, so thank you, is that you have turned on the porch light for strategic political giving among your friends, your family, and your neighbors. And it is a place to guide people when they are feeling those feelings, because those feelings are real, but that we have to be strategic about where we invest politically. The presidential and the federal races are going to raise millions and millions of dollars, and many of those are going to be left unspent at the end of the day. In 2020, it broke my heart to see federal campaigns with $10 or $15 million left in the bank when I knew that the States Project budget to be in so many states was less than that. So we've grown, we've expanded, we've drawn more people into the work. We thank you all for being here. And I really do believe this is the most strategic thing you can do with your political investments in 2024. So I will end with a trilogy that I like to say, and then I really want to open it up and answer questions that you all have. But if you care about Congress, you should care about state legislatures, because they draw the district lines that decide who goes to Congress. And if you care about the Supreme Court, you should care about state legislatures, because the Supreme Court doesn't write laws. They rule on laws, many of which are coming out of state legislatures. It was a Mississippi law that took down Roe, and if that one hadn't done it, there were 16 other states that had passed abortion bans explicitly to rise up to the Supreme Court to take down Roe right after Kavanaugh was confirmed. And if you care about the presidency, you should care about state legislatures, because not only do state legislatures decide who can vote and when and how in their states, but they also decide about the purging of the rolls, the closing of polling places, and so much election law in their states. And they also happen to be the path through which the right wing tried to steal the 2020 election. In December of 2020, Donald Trump wasn't flying congressmen or senators in to meet with him in the White House. He was flying state lawmakers from Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Arizona straight to DC so that he could talk to them about shifting electoral college votes over to him. This is a place where we can defend our democracy for pennies on the dollar of what federal races cost. It's a place where the right wing has been working steadily since the 1970s, and we have to push back. So thank you for doing that work with us. And I'm going to stop now, or I'll just keep talking forever. I see there's stuff in the chat. All right. Should I take Ruth's questions in the chat? Would that be a good place to start, Fern?
Yes, yes, you can. I think Nina and I can ask you those questions if rather than you sort of hunt through the chat. And Nina,
Great.
I did see a question about and you can field some of the others that you see in the chat, and then I'll also give some previously submitted questions. I'll ask Melissa that. And the first one that I saw in the chat is basically how are the states or I should say the districts selected? Do you specify states and districts, and how? I didn't say that very well.
Yes, so we do have a list of target states. Tia's got a link in the chat where you can see the 7 states that are on our list for this year. Virginia's there too, but that was elections in 2023. We were able to flip the House of Delegates and defend the state Senate. So we've got a blue wall up in front of Governor Youngkin now in Virginia, which was an incredible victory in November. So we have those target states, and the way that we choose target districts is we are really looking for districts that will be the set of tipping point districts that is either going to defend or shift power depending on what's needed. And we choose those districts based on a lot of data. There's a spreadsheet that makes my eyes cross, but that our research team fully understands. And the things that are on it are things like, is this a district where someone has won statewide, a Democrat has won statewide, where they still have a right-wing rep in place so that we know that someone else can win it if folks turn out? Is it a district where, maybe Biden won the district, or yeah, exactly, like a governor or secretary of state, that type of thing. We also take into account shifting demographics, who ran last time, and did they raise enough? Did they run a good campaign, a fully funded campaign? Were they the right candidate for the district? We look at a lot of factors to figure out which our target districts should be. And when we go in, we have an in-state partner. So in most states, that is the state caucus. That's the entity in the state that's exclusively focused on the legislature, not the state party. The state party is often focused on top of the ticket, but the state caucus also focuses on the legislature, and we align with them on targeting so that we are able to work hand in glove with their staff on the ground, and make sure that we're prioritizing their local needs as well. So that's how we kind of look at the districts. And once we're very district first. So we're actually looking at districts ahead of there even being filing deadlines or even knowing who's running. And then once candidates declare and then emerge from primaries, we do interview them and talk to folks to make sure there's some values alignment, and that that we're backing good folks.
Thank you, Melissa. And the next question, actually, Ruth Nemo had 3 questions. I think you've answered how you decide which races to support, but she would also like to know, does a particular giving circle specify which state their money is going to go for? And also, how much money is considered a critical mass for a single race?
Great question. So yes, giving circles can choose which state from our target list they would like to focus on. And once they hit 25% of their goal, which I believe you all are already past that. Yes, you're already well past 25% of your goal. So you can choose a target state, and 100% of the amount you raise goes out the door to that state. So we have other donors who cover other parts of our operation, and giving circles are really organizing for us. So 100% of the amount you raise goes out the door to the state that you choose. There's no bad choices among the states. There's just a different story for each one. They're all strategically chosen states. So definitely each group kind of thinks about which one they'd like to choose together. And we're happy to support that as well and answer questions about that. And how much money? Sorry, I was going to answer that second question, which is, to be honest, state legislative races really cost wildly different amounts depending on what state you're in and what the campaign finance laws are and things like that. But the States Project really does do our spending in a specific way, which is we do give direct to candidate, but we also work, again, like I said, with the caucus, and we are often providing a majority of our funds there to support things like, we have 3 key tactics, and I feel like you all are people who like to get into the weeds, so I'll just spend 1 minute doing that. We of course want to make sure that everybody has, a good campaign manager and field director and the things that are needed for a campaign. But we also have a real point of view and a lot of research behind the tactics that we bring into a state. One of those tactics is a local press project. So we work with the caucus to hire someone who is specifically focused on getting local press for candidates in these tipping point seats. That could mean everything from a statewide newspaper to a very, very local neighborhood sheet or a church bulletin, anything that really ups the person's name recognition within their district. Because of course, these candidates are still really local. The second thing is, when we run, many state legislative races do run television ads, and they spend a lot of their budget on it because television has been shown to be effective, and digital, of course. When those ads are in our districts, we want them to be ad tested with a focus group from the district. So ad testing is a tactic that we've brought to our states as well. making sure that they resonate locally with the people in the district. And the third tactic, which is my favorite, is that where it's allowable, we run a candidate door knocking challenge in these states, which means that we have the candidate themselves turn in weekly door numbers to the caucus, who turns them over to us. And the candidates who knock personally on the most doors each month get additional campaign contributions. We want to incentivize a practice that will help them win races rather than a practice that is age old, dialing for dollars out of state to fund their campaigns. So they'll still have to do that. They have to run their campaigns, but we want them to be knocking on doors and meeting voters. And we found the door knocking program is a very effective way to do that. And it's a challenge between them. They get competitive. I will tell you that in Pennsylvania in 2022, folks in our door knocking challenge knocked on 5 times as many doors as people who were not in our challenge. That is thousands and thousands more doors knocked by the candidates in Pennsylvania. And I will remind you that we flipped the Pennsylvania House by 63 votes in November 22. So these are the kind of tactics that really, they don't work at scale. They wouldn't work in a federal race or a statewide. It's too many doors. But you can use these non-scalable tactics in a state legislative race and hit a lot of doors and talk to a lot of voters. And that person-to-person contact is the thing that cuts through the noise. So.
Wonderful. I have a pre-submitted question, and that is, what is the difference between the state's project and the Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee? That's the DLCC, which is the Democratic Party organ that funds states' campaigns.
Yes, great question. So the DLCC is an organization that we work closely with. We're in contact with them, and certainly when we're in the same states, which is sometimes true, but not always, we see each other all the time. Our political directors do. So we are, there's a couple of ways that we're different. Number one, those tactics that I just talked about, we really have regional campaign directors who are devoted to and in contact almost daily with the folks in these states, because we are bringing funding and tactics to the states. That's not something that historically the DLCC has done. They're the party, they're bigger in many ways, and they have more places to be. It is true though, however, that in the past couple of years, we have actually become the #1 state legislative funder in the country. So we are a little bigger than the DLCC is at this point. That is partly because this is like trying to water a desert with 4 garden hoses. There is not enough attention paid on state legislatures. The DLCC, I'm sure, has been fighting for space for years. And we are a partner in that fight to make state legislatures a real highlight for people in our country, not an afterthought, not the second thing. I will tell you that in Virginia last year, giving circles, so rooms like Zoom rooms, backyards, living rooms, put more dollars in to try to flip the House of Delegates in Virginia than the DNC, than the National Party. People organizing like this did more, which I'm both very proud of and very dismayed by, because the way that we are funding our elections is really upside down. We're trying to shine a chimney on a house of crumbling foundations, and working at the foundations is what we and the DLCC does. So that's one differentiator. We're a little bigger at this point, and we do bring those tactics. The second one is, and this actually speaks to another question that I glanced at in the chat, Cynthia Decker's, what is the strategy to keep people in office? We have a policy side to us. I'm not on the policy team, but I love what they do. The lawmaker engagement team, they work with people, not on elections, but on setting agendas for passing laws that will improve people's lives. So that agenda that came out of Michigan recently, we've been working in Michigan for 6 years with the sitting lawmakers in the minority and talking to them about being ready to take the majority, being ready with their first 6 bills, being ready to pass policy, because we knew, even if it wasn't this year, even if it wasn't the next 2 years, we were going to flip Michigan. And when we did, they were able to pass more laws in that first month of their session than the right-wing majority had passed in the last couple of years in Michigan. So that's a thing that we do to help people stay in office. Our policy work that we do, popular, economical, makes good sense to humans. And they're the type of policies and policy agendas that people in all types of districts can tout and say, we did this for our constituents and feel proud of. So Tia, can you possibly, there was an article, and we'll send all these links afterwards too, so don't feel like you have to keep up with the chat, but there was a big article in the New York Times about our policy work last fall, and it really does talk a lot about how much we do to support lawmakers. And by the way, once they pass policies that improve people's lives, people feel it. And if they're able to go out and knock on the doors and message that that policy was passed, that's how you keep your seat.
Thank you, Melissa. Mary Kelly has 2 questions. The first one is, what's the difference between the state caucus and the state party organization, if any? And the main question is, has the state's project experienced any backlash from the right wing?
Yeah, so the party and the caucus. So the state party is really very, very focused on statewide races. So governor's races, secretaries of state, attorneys general, and of course, this year, the presidential. They will be working to win and get voters out all over the state, which means that often it is in their interest to organize in traditionally blue districts to get those voters out. We work in very, very purple or slightly red districts and we target specifically those districts because what we're working to do is shift power in the state capital, not statewide power. So the state caucus focuses on the legislature just like we do and targets with us. And so that's why we work with the state caucus, where the state party gets distracted by the top of the ticket races.
Four for us.
Do you know the name?
Vegas.
Patty,
Robin, Vegas.
So that's the difference. I think great, they just did. So that's the difference between the state party and the state caucus. And then to the second question, yes, we have had some backlash from the right wing as we've gotten bigger and gotten some more attention. And we are cautious about things, but generally our effect has been very positive, and there hasn't been backlash that has hurt us yet. But yes, they are aware of us, they watch us closely, and we really comb our Zoom registration lists to make sure there are no bad actors coming in the room.
Yes, sure. Am I muted? Can you hear me?
No, you're good.
Oh,
You're
sorry.
good.
Okay, I have another submitted question. And that is, in your literature, you talk about early money. That's something we haven't talked yet about. And why is early money important? And what is the $1 million match?
Great questions. So early money is important because early dollars are the ones that are part of the strategy. So right now in these states, folks are sitting down and figuring out how much staff they can hire, and figuring out how much their digital plan will be and their television plan, and how many districts they'll be able to cover at the state caucus and really help out. And so they have to project how much money they might raise. Early dollars that come in become part of that strategy. Dollars that come in the fall, which honestly is when most people kind of wake up and rub their eyes and say, oh, I think there's an election soon, maybe I should do something about it. Not you all, I'm not talking about you, but we all know these people. Those dollars that come in the fall, they're still important. They extend television buys, they make sure people can stay up on air, but they're not strategic. They're not part of the planning, because the planning gets locked in earlier than that. So for our giving circles, we love folks to get started early. We love folks to set and hit goals in the winter or the spring, or even the summer is still considered early, ahead of Labor Day. because those are the dollars that become part of the real plan. And after that, still important, like I said, but just not as strategic. So we did kick off this year, and actually just yesterday started $1 million match, which means that we have $500,000 ready to go from some donors who are really inspired by the Giving Circles program. And so every dollar that is raised from yesterday through March 4th, up to $500,000 total by Giving Circles, will be matched. So as dollars come in now, we will be able to match them. And then later in March, when the match is over, you'll see your total go way up, because any donation in that time frame will be doubled. And that's really because people are inspired that there are groups of people coming together to do this. And we want to incentivize it. We want to incentivize it happening early. And when it's over, we're going to have $1 million to be able to deploy in these states in the first quarter, which is game changing. So
let's take one more question before we turn to the next phase of our meeting. Are there, Nina, are there any questions in the chat, or Melissa, is there any?
Yes.
Yes.
Steve Pressman asked, have you identified the most effective messages for persuading people to participate in a giving circle, such as an email template or other? In other words, how can we be the most effective giving circle possible?
yes, so we do have a lot of sample language. We have a couple of documents, and we can share those with you as well. After this, we'll send a set of links to you all. But we have certain elevator pitches about this. If you have someone who's not going to read a lot, we have podcasts, which basically where I tell my story. So if you have someone who drives everywhere, it's like, hey, listen to this podcast. I'm doing a giving circle. See what you think. And we have a lot of sample language too around the match that just started, how to tell people about that. So yes, we absolutely have templates, podcasts, videos, kind of any format that anyone would want to hear this message delivered in, able for you to share.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Thanks so much.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for that really inspiring presentation. I think it's given us a very much needed boost of energy and optimism. And so now I'd like to turn to the next phase of our meeting, where we want to describe, first of all, the preliminary work that the IM steering committee and a subcommittee of it, the Indivisible Montgomery Giving Circle leaders, have done to lay the groundwork for our campaign. So I'd like, therefore, to turn the meeting over to Susan. And if you could just, describe to us the sort of foundation that we've laid and what we've done in terms of trying to implement a giving circle right here as a basis, and it has its base, I should say, in Indivisible Montgomery.
Fern, sorry. Can I interrupt for just a
Sure.
millisecond? Yeah. Are we saying goodbye to Melissa and Tia at this point?
Melissa, you're still here, which
You're
is
welcome to stay.
I am. I didn't know if you needed us for this part or if you're all set.
No,
No,
we're
I
happy
think-
to be here.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really, really, really appreciate it. And we'll send you some follow-up links, and just thank you for doing
so
this.
much. Thank you. We're so grateful.
Melissa. Thanks, Tia.
We have had the head of the States Project actually come here and address us. And I'm really quite honored, Melissa.
Thank you.
And honored also to Tia Howard, who is a member of the States Project staff. And it has been a fantastic help to us as we, begin to learn, have begun to learn about giving circles and getting started. So we want to thank you now publicly for the support that you've given us.
Thank you all so much for being with us. We're so excited to have you.
Yeah.
Susan,
Okay.
take it away.
Okay, so now that we've heard about giving circles, you all know now that we've decided to establish a giving circle for Indivisible Montgomery. So we've decided to sponsor one for the 2024 election cycle, and our goal is to raise $10,000. Our goal date is November 2024, but of course, as you just heard from Melissa, we'd like to raise as much as possible earlier because early money is the most valuable, as Melissa just told us. So our giving cycle will run until November, but we'd like to raise more early. And then another bonus with that we just found out about is that there is the match for any money given, starting yesterday. So, as you'll see in a minute when I show the website, we've already raised 34% of our goal, so just over $3,400, largely through the gifts of our steering committee and the Giving Circle committee. And so the hope is to raise the rest from Indivisible Montgomery members, possibly members of other organizations that we might work with, like we have guests from Indivisible Howard here, and then from donations from friends and family that Indivisible members may ask to donate. And we are hoping that this is another activity that some IM members may want to engage in. This is an alternative activity, people who may not want to call people or go around knocking on doors. This is an activity that you can do is helping to raise money. The way a giving circle, is intended to work is, yes, we are a group, we are a circle, we raise money ourselves, and you also can ask other people to participate. So as some of you saw in the chat, we haven't chosen a state to which we'll give our donations yet. I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to show you, some of you may have followed the link, the 7 states that are available. And the idea is we'll have a poll or we will vote. Okay, sorry, I have to find the right window. And we'll have a poll or we'll vote on which state that we will be choosing.
Yeah, somebody asked if we could have our money go to more than one state, and I think the answer to that is no.
The answer to
We
that
pick
is no,
one.
that we do pick a state. Okay.
While Susan is looking for her
Yes,
screen.
just getting my screen ready to share.
Yeah, I will throw out some of the other questions that had been submitted. If we donate to the Indivisible Montgomery Giving Circle, where does the money go? Okay, it goes immediately to the states project and then out to the states. As Melissa said, none of it goes to the states project's administrative costs. They have other donors for that. Can you explain the reverse coattail effect? Okay, so the coattail effect is people go to vote for the president, and then while they're in the booth, they select some down ballot candidates because they're there. And the reverse coattail effect is they go to vote for the local candidates, and while they're there, okay, yeah, well, I'll vote for Joe Biden. That's the reverse coattail effect. And I will hand it back to Susan.
Okay, so these are the states that the states project has chosen for the 2024. Ignore Virginia, that was 2023. And these are the 7 states that we can choose from. So I won't read them. You can all read them.
Except for Virginia, which is already done.
Yeah. So I think we'll end up doing a poll to choose our state. So donating to our Giving Circle is done through an app called Grapevine. I'm going to put the link to our own IM Grapevine in the chat, and then I'm going to give a quick demonstration of how the website works. It's quite simple, but
The last question was, when does the money start going to the state's project? Does it wait until the entire amount is raised? And the answer, if I am correct, is no, it goes right away.
Right. So the money we've raised already is early money for everyone. Okay.
Yeah, it's already gone. I mean, they're
Right.
keeping a record on Grapevine, but the money has already been funneled to. Well, wait a second. We haven't chosen a state yet, so maybe
Right.
they're.
So I
should
think as
that.
soon as we choose a state, it will go. So are you all seeing the Grapevine right now, or do I need to reshare my screen?
No,
You're
I
seeing-
see Indivisible.
We're seeing it.
Great.
Giving circle. Oh, yeah, that is Grapevine. So
This is our Grapevine site. Okay. And if one of you could put the link in the chat right now, we'll share a QR code in a minute later on in the meeting that you can all use if you want to donate today. But if one of you could put that in, I'd appreciate it. One of the other people who are. So this is our Grapevine site. And
Roger and Patty, you're going to see the answer
I
to
have-
your question in a second, how much money has been raised so far.
yes,
And
here is how much
they're-
money has been raised. Here on the right, 3405 out of our $10,000 dome. And as you can see, it's quite simple. You go to the website, you donate here on the right-hand side. You can choose to make a one-time donation, or you can do monthly donations or quarterly donations. Just to let you know, if you were to choose monthly or quarterly, our donation cycle does close in November 2024, so you're not committing to monthly or quarterly forever. It's through November 2024. Okay. So you just do that. If you donate, I'm just going to pretend that I'm donating. You'll be asked to fill out information that should look very familiar to those of you that have made donations on sites like, GoFundMe or ActBlue. You just put in billing information, your name. They ask you your employer in case there's a match, and because the law for political contributions require your employer and occupation. It's the same information that you used to filling in. And then you do the default is give once, and you have to change it to do monthly or quarterly donations. Okay. So we have our site set up. We have our site set up in a way that their information is private. Only members can see the posts. Anyone can join the membership.
So you don't have to be a member of Indivisible Montgomery.
You do not have to be a member of Indivisible Montgomery, and members of Grapevine are not the same as members of Indivisible Montgomery. I have requested, I am a member, and I'll show you what members see in a minute. This, I wanted to show you what you'd see if you're not a member. So I requested membership with another different email. So this is what you see when you first go in. You just donate, but you don't see any content here. Okay. If you are a member, then you see, you'll see some information about us. And did you change what you saw by any chance?
I don't think so.
Okay, then let me go to this one. Sorry.
There isn't about our group.
Yes, that's what I meant, to see about our group. Yes, that's a different one.
I just can't see it because it's too low down.
Okay, well, this is what you'd see if you're a member of the group. You just see we only have one post so far. But if you do join,
Can you
click.
scroll down on that one?
I'll see if I can scroll down on that one. Sorry.
Right.
About our group, yeah. Okay. And then if you join, and right here, what you would see is a button that says join the Grapevine. You'll see information, posts that we raise, and you'll also see, you'll also have the opportunity to access information that you can use to ask people to donate, the kind of templates that someone, I think Steve asked about. You'll have access to those templates. Now, we'll also provide that information in regular posts from Indivisible Montgomery. We'll provide some templates like that. If you do decide to join, you'll get the chance to go to account settings, which I'm sharing now. I hope you're seeing. And you'll see you have the choice to opt in or out of getting regular updates. So if you want to be a member, but you don't want to be deluged with messages, you can just turn off each of these things. So decide that you don't want to get notified every time there's an update. Just click them off. So you can be a member so that you can go to Grapevine to see the updates, but don't want to get regular email messages. And then the other things you can see here is invite friends. And this gives you some access. You can actually invite friends through the Giving Circle. Okay, and it will send emails for you. Okay. So so are there any questions about the website or about our Giving Circle in general?
Mary Kelly asks, do you recommend becoming a member?
I would recommend becoming a member because we will be sending out some messages. We may hold some events in the future for people who've given to Grapevine, who've given to the Giving Circle. And we'll probably communicate those events through the IM newsletter as well. You would be certain to hear about them.
And
But it is
Cynthia,
completely optional. It is not required. Okay, you can definitely just give.
Cynthia is confused about when we say member. Are we referring to a member of Grapevine or a member of
We are
Indivisible?
referring in this case to a member of the Giving Circle. A person can be, there's a button on the Grapevine which is Join Giving Circle. It is completely separate from membership to Indivisible Montgomery.
And
So
you can still,
is Grapevine just the platform?
It is. Grapevine is just the platform. And this Giving Circle that I was demonstrating is a page on Grapevine. And it's called, so I should probably say becoming a member of the Giving Circle.
So the state's project, I guess, contracts with Grapevine. So when somebody creates a Giving Circle, they set up a bare bones page on Grapevine for that Giving Circle and then hand it over to the local people to develop it, to put, okay, who's on the team and what are we about and all of these things. So we got that page from them. We didn't go out there and think, wow, what platform are we going to use? All Giving Circles use this platform, but you only have access to ours unless there's another Giving Circle in your life.
yeah, the way I would put it is that the Grapevine page is part of the state's project bureaucracy, and it is the means by which we can donate through our Giving Circle to the state's project. It's the means by which we can do it. And, as Nina has said, and as Susan has said, membership is not compulsory. You can still donate and decide not to become a member, or donate and become a member, which is recommended, if only so that you can get communications from through the communications from Grapevine that could be relevant to the status of the fund. But we're always going to be communicating with IM members, individual Montgomery members, through the newsletter as well, and the newsletter and the IM webpage.
I see.
Fern, can I jump in for just a sec?
Yeah.
Like when we're potentially partnering with other folks,
Yes,
including other chapters of
that's
Indivisible.
right.
I know
That's
Howard
correct.
is here, and I see someone in the chat is here from Frederick. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yes,
Love,
absolutely.
love, love to talk to you more about District 6.
Yeah.
So, but by becoming member of the Giving Circle, you
Yes,
can be sure to get information about the Giving Circle because you may not get our newsletter. So
that
that would
that's
be a strategy.
in fact a very, very important reason, by the way, uh, for you to become a member. Exactly. So I would really urge you, especially if you're not directly involved with Indivisible Montgomery. But we are actually thinking about ways to try to partner and collaborate. That's a very serious desire on our part. So that is developing.
Right, people
I-
can join the Indivisible Montgomery Giving Circle, no matter what country they live in, no matter what state they live in. It's open to everybody.
Exactly.
And I
Yeah,
just
because
thought
you
of a
might
way
have,
to have your money go to 2 states, join 2 giving circles.
Yeah.
Yes, well, that is a possibility.
Susan, is there anything else that, okay, well, with that said, I
Oh,
think,
we have one question from
yes,
Cynthia,
sure,
which I feel is really important. Do
sure.
we know how secure Grapevine is with our personal information?
That's an excellent question.
Yeah,
And, yeah,
I don't think we have any direct information, but as Mike mentioned, Grapevine is an extremely widely used platform, used not just by Giving Circles, not just by the States Project, but by many, many philanthropic groups. You can see when you first, if you ask to become a member and you join, you'll get a list like that lets you select from among lots of groups. And so, although of course that's not a guarantee, I think that means that it's fairly well vetted because so many different groups do use Grapevine as a fundraising mechanism.
And just
Susan,
as a precaution, never save credit card information on
Well,
any
of course,
site
that's a,
with
I mean,
this.
that, you know,
Yeah.
though you do the same things, right?
is the one thing would be interesting would be to look up the privacy policy
Yes.
for Grapevine, and that might be a good to do. That's a good point.
And just so you know, we
Yeah, sure.
did set the privacy things on our own
Yes.
page. We had one of the reasons why when you're not a member, you don't see a lot of information is because we set our own page to have the maximum privacy. So you actually, in setting it up, we had an option, say, to make some things public so that anyone who went to the page would see it. And we set them all so that only members would see it.
Right. Okay, with that then, I'd like the concluding part of our Giving Circle part of the meeting then is we're going to hear from a couple of members of the Giving Circle who have given, and they're going to talk about why I did give and why it's a good idea to donate. To give a serious consideration and about giving a serious donation early if you can. And by serious, I mean what you must and what you can, both. So I think I'd like then to turn to Nina.
Okay,
we
I'll
only
try.
have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'll
All
try
right.
1 minute. Oh my God. I think the first time I gave to a candidate outside of my own district was John Ossoff in 2017. He was running for Congress in Georgia and he lost, but I gave that money. Since then, I seem to be popping up on people's lists of donors everywhere, and I spend a lot of time zapping those emails. Sometimes I don't even know where the people are running. I chose to get involved with the States Project because I like the way they strategically select races that are going to make the most difference. and I can give one time or a couple of times. And then I can ignore all that other stuff that's coming into my inbox and feel confident that my money is going to be the most useful that it can be. Is that fast enough? Okay, go D.
No, I thought that was great. Great. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I gave to the Giving Circle in memory of my parents who were lifelong Democrats. And as their lives came to an end, they were living through Trump. And my father was a longtime government servant, public servant, government scientist. And it was absolutely heartbreaking in our family in fact, I'm going to choke up a little bit. So when I gave to the Giving Circle, when we started this, I felt so much power, and I thought of them, the both of them, and I really felt in their memory, I needed to do this. So I don't know if that resonates with anyone. It's very personal. I hope you don't mind me sharing that, but that's why I gave. And of course, I gave for my children and my maybe someday grandchildren. Who knows? All right. Thank you, guys. I think that is it. This has been a wonderful meeting. We are so happy and honored that you stayed with us. We had almost 50 people. We're down to 36 now. Of course, this is going to be recorded and we will share the links with you. Have an absolutely great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Join our Giving Circle and spread the word to your friends, your family, your neighbors who are on the same page with us about where we want the country to be going.
And remember,